Once again, back with another episode of a Nerds Podcast, and today I'm happy to have with me a person that I actually do know for a while. Is a pretty awesome person I got to work with. You know, she was pretty cool back in the day. You know, we didn't work necessarily at the same position, but still, I enjoy going to talk to her when I had to see her in the office. So she was really cool. And without any further ado, how you doing? I should say your name. Annie, is it Lynn?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Annie is Annie Ellison.
Elliot Ellison, cool.
Yeah.
And a brain fart.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. Now, I've been doing this podcast not very long, maybe like 6 months or something like that. And somehow I'm lucky enough to have a few people, had some professional wrestlers, had some musicians, and had an actor on here. So I like to hit you up because I know you have you written 2 books or 1 book have you written?
I have self-published 1 book of poems.
Okay.
And I'm currently working on my first novel.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that. That's all right.
Yeah, I was actually listening to your the Haunted House podcast.
Okay.
And that was pretty cool. So I like listening. I heard a reference like Comic-Con, and you were talking about Scaremare, which was not. You're right. It was not.
It was garbage.
Scary, so.
It was straight up garbage.
It was. Yeah. I used to live in Florida, so I've done like Hollow Scream and forget the other one. Universal Studios Haunted Horror Nights.
Okay.
Or Halloween Horror Nights.
That's cool.
And yeah. Hollow Scream is very scary.
Yeah, you got some real ones. I got a goofy one. I ain't never been to. I probably have a heart attack if I went to one now.
If they bring Hollow Scream back to Williamsburg, Busch Gardens, it's totally worth going to.
Almost definitely. I'll check it out. Shoot. Now, my podcast is called Nerds Podcast. It's basically a podcast for video games, cartoons, comic books, movies, professional wrestling, anything that nerds will like. You don't have to be a nerd to like it. Almost nerds vacated to. And the reason why I looked you up is because I know you're a writer, and I would like to hear your perspective on writing and, basically, what this brought you to make you want to attempt to do it in the first place.
Well, I've been writing like my whole life. I've loved reading and writing since I was like a little kid. Like as soon as I could, that was what I had like little short stories with like pictures and stuff from when I was really little.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. A couple years ago, almost 2 years ago, I had this huge collection of poems,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, well, Amazon lets you like self-publish your book, and
okay.
they basically split the like 70-30, so you keep 70% of like your sales minus what do you have to pay in taxes.
Yeah.
And then they keep the 30% for like publishing costs and stuff. So it's a pretty cool deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little bit like kind of weird figuring out their publishing. I guess their software that they have through their website.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool. I had an idea for the theme. It's got like 3 different major themes in it, and it's kind of centered around like tarot, which I don't know if you are interested in that at all, but
I know it is. It seems like it's pretty cool. I mean, I wouldn't not be interested. If someone brought it to me, I would at least listen.
Yeah. Well, tarot cards are cool. They're some people don't like them because they associate them with like witchcraft and the devil. I mean, it's witchcraft, I guess, like light version of it. But it's like every card has a meaning in the deck, especially the major cards.
Yeah.
So it centers around the three cards that I picked were Death, the Fool, and the Empress. And so each section has poems that are kind of centered around those subjects.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like, I wanted to be a writer, but I was never committed to doing it. And it's one of the things I regret not taking it seriously when I actually had a feeling of doing it. Because I'll tell you one story. Once, a long time ago, I used to go to the Barnes and Nobles, and there was a lady there who had like a book night, and you can bring your short stories, your poems, and that. And she said, "You're pretty good. You should talk to this young man who's like a writer." And I went to him and I asked him for advice, and he gave me the simplest advice, but I didn't want to hear it. He just said, "Keep writing."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
My little one is crying right now.
You can go ahead. Go ahead. If you want to, I can just wait. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me see. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna just like put you on hold for just a second. I'm
Go ahead.
So sorry.
Go ahead. That's no big deal. You're a mom, so that's what you're supposed to do.
Thank you.
Mm.
Okay. Hello.
I'm here.
Okay. So sorry about that.
It's okay. You're a mom. That's what you're supposed to do. You know.
Yeah.
Shoot, podcast is supposed to be perfect anyway.
But so what was I going to say? Oh, so back to the writing. By doing this podcast, you're basically kind of like getting into writing in a sense.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, I was saying something. Oh, I was basically saying that a long time ago, I talked to a writer who actually had books published, and if I listened to him, he basically told me in the most simplest phrase, and he said, just keep writing, which I should have listened to him. I thought he was going to give me some big, dramatic, goofy, long, well, you need to write about your heart and your brain and your work. He gave me, just keep writing, dude. That's all you got to do. And I thought he was going to give me some big, profound nonsense. And if I listened to him, I probably would be still writing to this day. But I guess it wasn't meant to be, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, it's never too late to, like, start something or, like, pursue something that, you know, you maybe, like, felt like you should have been doing the whole time, especially if you think you're good at it. You know?
Yeah. I did once, and I still enjoyed this experience. I had wrote a whole lot of poems, and I got on stage at some place downtown, Lynchburg downtown, over from Percival's Isle. It's like across from the Lynchburg Market. It used to be a little coffee house, and I remember reading my poems up there and being scared to death. That light was hotter than the sun. I was like, but I'm glad I did it.
I know what coffee shop I think you're talking about. It's the, they have a big giant window in the front.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What is the name of that? Anyway, I didn't know that they did, like, open mic nights.
That was like in my 20s. I was like, and I'm sure they don't do it now. Definitely not COVID. But when I was younger, in my early 20s, I remember this vividly. I remember getting out the car with a buddy of mine. I remember we were crossing the street. I remember it was this dude in the Richmond Market. He was practicing his violin. And I remember going in there, and I remember they had live bands, and it was just like, I don't know what kind of band. I don't know what kind of band they were. They're like some kind of, it's going to sound bad, but they were, I think, a really butch lesbian band. I don't know what they were. But I remember getting on stage and reading my poems, and it was just like, I was scared. I was scared to death. I was like, who is this? People looking at me, and they gave me applause to my little goofy poem. But I said, I'm glad I experienced that. I got that fear out the way.
Yeah, no, that's like really big to be able to do something like that. Like, to be able to do like spoken, like written to spoken word like that, it takes a lot of guts. And
It does. I agree.
I mean, yeah. So that's cool. That's very cool. And it, and it might have. I know you were saying maybe they weren't great, but maybe they were really good because we're always our own worst critics.
I am.
I write stuff from. Yeah, you're like, oh, that's cheesy. Like, no.
Yeah, I can't stand the sound of my voice. That's one thing I have to get over. That I had in my mind, I think I sound different, but when I start doing a podcast, like, man, I sound goofy.
I can't imagine. Like sometimes I listen to videos when I hear myself, and I'm like, oh, my voice doesn't sound like that to me.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I thought I had a whole lot of bass in my voice, and here's another thing that in podcasts that I've learned did not bother me anymore. I used to listen to people's podcasts and listen to them ramble. I used to get so annoyed until I did my own. I said, I will never judge anyone else again, because, man, as there's times I have no clue what I'm talking about. I was like, get to the point, man.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, this is now do you have like influences in writing that people that you have read and inspired you want to become a writer?
One of my absolute favorite writers. Her name is Ayn Rand.
I know that name. I know that.
A lot of people know her because maybe you had to read Atlas Shrugged in high school or something.
Yeah.
But she kind of centers around this philosophy called objectivism. It's actually like a philosophy she created and then wrote some of the books about. But I love her writing. I think like the way that she includes her philosophy and then mixes in fiction in her novels it's so admirable. So she's like one of those people that, someone asks you like if you could speak to anybody that's dead, like who would you speak to? Like I would speak to Ayn Rand because I would want to pick apart her brain.
Okay.
So she's really cool. She's, there's a lot of people that are very divided about her writing. Some people think she's a little bit wordy, and then some people they like super disagree with her philosophy because it centers around like kind of this being selfish is like a virtue, which sounds like it sounds selfish. But her argument is that if you pursue things that you love, if you pursue things that you're really good at, like, and that in itself is being selfish in a good way. Yeah. So it's like being selfish without hurting others, I guess. So.
That's a good description. I mean, there's people who are just giant pricks and just do things for their own, but there's people it's like I know what I'm going to do, and you're not going to stop me from doing it. You're not going to deter me from doing it. And I think that's what she probably was referring to, that necessarily being mean.
Right, and a lot of people can definitely they're like, oh, you're doing anything to get to your goal, whatever that may be. Like, what about these people in your lives? And it's like, well, they'll respect that I'm trying to pursue something that I'm passionate about, or that I know I can change the world with. They'll respect that if they really respect me. So I don't know. She's awesome. I'm kind of I like her a lot. And then I don't know. I really like Poe. He's a great poet. So I don't know. I do like some of his like darker stuff. And I think that's kind of influenced some of my like shots. Like when I wanted to pick out which poem to put in my book, I was like, okay, I don't want to seem too dark, and I'm like, well, that's real though. Like being dark in this particular poem is real, so it's okay.
Yeah, you did say Edgar Allan Poe, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. I have a book. Someone gave me a book. I don't remember who it was. I think my mom gave me a book. But I didn't know his story. Didn't his story have to deal with him before he became the writer he was? I think his writing wasn't being published or wasn't being recognized as he wanted. And then it's like he had so many tragedies happen in his life, and then that kind of skewered him to becoming the person he later became. Is that factual?
Tragically, one of those people that like he was way more famous after he died than during his life. And yeah, he did have a lot of struggles. He lost the love of his life, and just struggled financially. So his writing wasn't respected until after he died, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh man, and like we missed out on this guy while he was alive, but here's all his work while he's dead. So
I think it happens. Some people don't get recognized until after they die, and it's like, oh my God, this guy was so prolific. He was the greatest guy in the world. Like, he was alive when you saw him. You didn't want to see him then. Why'd you want to talk to him now? He's dead now.
Some people are ahead of their time. It takes some time to recognize maybe something that's a little bit different, or someone that has a voice that's not necessarily for that time period. So
I agree. I think sometimes there are people that you don't register as being a genius, and like this is not the same, frame. But I'm gonna throw this person's name in here only because I like him. He's not a writer, but he's a stand-up comic, and his name is Patrice O'Neal, and he was like a guy who was like the closest thing to Richard Pryor, if you can, without being Richard Pryor. And he was a guy who would get on stage, and people would get highly pissed, and they would walk out. But his stand-up was honest. But I think sometimes honesty stings.
No, people don't. Sometimes people in the general public, they don't want to hear the truth, which is pretty unfortunate. But I don't know. I feel like we've probably all been there anyway, where like you had to hear a really hard truth that you didn't want to listen to. So I guess. But I don't know. I've never heard of Patrice O'Neal, but I'm not super into comedians.
Yeah.
Like I like listening to stand up, but I don't know a lot about many of them.
Yeah, but he wasn't. His thing, like I don't think a lot of people knew about him, but I think it's unfortunate. And I think a lot of because he burned a lot of bridges because he didn't want to seem like a commercial comedian that, he didn't want tweens to come his show or people who are not going to be able to handle his raw material the way he told his stand-up. So he inadvertently, on his own, he burned a lot of bridges, so a lot of people didn't know him. But I knew him because I remember him on Tough Crowd, and I also remember watching his stand-up, and his stand-up was like amazing. He was crazy funny. So I don't blame you because there's a lot of comedians that people don't know about, but I think it's because their own undoing. Sometimes people, they burn their own bridges before they become famous. So Edgar Allan Poe is a good example as a person that, before the tragedy hit and before all that, I guarantee you, if you say Edgar Allan Poe, when people walk around and say, "Who are you talking?" I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Which is really sad like to be just, I don't know, to have to live such a life of pain. But I mean, sometimes like from your pain, you get some of your, like as an artist, you get some of your best work. Like when you experience, I mean, when you experience positive things too, which is inspiring. But like when you really, like when you get hurt really bad, or when, you know, maybe someone or society, you kind of feel like they've wronged you, it makes you dig deep. And you have to kind of face some demons there, but it makes for very good art.
Yeah, it does. I agree. If you can, you know, shed that depression or whatever that kills you, and you can make something good out of it. Because a lot of my poems were very, very dark, and that's probably why I was always uncomfortable to read them, because I never knew how people was going to take them. I was like, I was afraid they might think I needed help or something.
Yeah. No, I mean that's writing. Like it's personal, and I mean I've tried to write from like an experience that maybe I haven't experienced. So almost like trying to put myself in someone else's shoes for like an emotion or something, and like I mean I can do it, but I think it's different when you get that, like something that you really experienced yourself firsthand, and like that emotion comes from that, and your poem comes from that. Like that's where you get some really good shit. And you know, sometimes you might think, oh, it's really dark, but there's a lot of people out there that they respect it, and you know, they get that like life's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah. And I think you know, maybe your writing could help someone, because a lot of times you always hear this thing where like, you know, hey, I really appreciate what you wrote, because I was going through a tough time, and that thing you wrote kind of like made me feel better. It made me understand that I'm not the only one in the world going through that. And I think sometimes writing can help that.
Yeah. Another artist that I very much admire, because she's an amazing spoken word poet. She's current. Well, before COVID, she was touring worldwide and doing like workshops and stuff like that. But she worked she wrote for Button Poetry. I don't know if have you heard of them?
I haven't.
Okay. So they they do spoken word contests, and you know, if you win, like they'll help you pursue your writing career. So she was a winner from I don't know what year, but her spoken word, like you just feel her on stage, and she has this one poem that I just absolutely love, and a lot of people that I try to show it to, they're like, oh, this is too dark, like, no. So she wrote from the perspective of how it must feel to be Jeffrey Dahmer's mom, and to like still have that still have that motherly love for someone. Good. But yeah, like that's good. Great. You have to look her up, because her name is Sierra DeMolder, and she's really good. Yeah, that poem it'll give you chills if you don't mind listening to like dark stuff.
That's cool. I like that, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'd like to check that out. And that's an interesting perspective to look at, because you know, everyone has a mom, and you know, no mom wants to even think that their son or daughter could be a monster. And I like to check that out, because that would be something cool to read, because you know, I don't never think about that. And you know, did you ever see? It's gonna suck because I can't think of the name. I think it was called Shockingly Dark or something. It was with Zac Efron. It's on Netflix. I think it still is. And it's basically about the serial killer Ted Bundy, but it's about his girlfriend. It's her perspective of seeing him as a monster.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I haven't seen that, but I should probably check that out. So, what's the name of it again?
I'm gonna screw this up because if you just look up Zac Efron, just go on Google and look up Zac Efron and look up his movies.
Oh, okay.
And it should come up because I'm gonna screw it up because I know it's called Shockingly Obscene whatever because the name of the movie came from when he was at when he was being trialed in Florida because Florida had some goofy rules that you can propose to your soon-to-be wife and while you're on trial. I don't know how that works. I hope they took that out. That's nonsense. But that's what the judge said to him. He said, you're shockingly, obscene or whatever. He said those lines. That's what the title of the movie came from. But it's. I feel
like I've seen that now that
you might have.
Now that you kind of go into more, I haven't seen it, but I've seen like the previews and stuff for it.
Yeah. Okay.
You're scanning through Netflix.
Yeah.
Done a lot more of that this year.
Netflix got a lot of movies, so you can be skimming for days and never get run out. But yeah. That's good. And if because you see a person that's not going to be squeamish, like I'm not going to tell you no dark like road and really disturbing things. I'm just going to show you like the ones that try to talk about in a civilized way, but not creepy. But Mind Hunters, if you ever have time where you are like you can chill, you can binge watch. I think it's only 2 seasons. It also deals with serial killers, and it's the most genius, amazing show. It is so good.
Interesting. Okay. Mind Hunters. Okay. I have some stuff to check out. We're getting into out of winter season, which means now I'm out of my I'll be out of my binge watching.
Yeah.
Ways. Not so much,
I got you.
Spend a little bit more time outside and
cool.
Out on the balcony, all that fun stuff. So, but I'll have to check it out. Sometimes, sometimes I need a little something binge-worthy or scandalous to watch. So
you'll like that. That's a show was it's basically, I'm gonna give you the premise of the show. I ain't gonna try to give you no spoilers, but basically the premise of the show is 2 FBI detectives are investigating and trying to figure out the mindset of serial killers. What they do is they will go to prisons where serial killers have been, already been arrested, and they will literally ask them questions about their childhood, about, all those things, what makes them tick, and hopefully they have basically a diagram of the lookout for a next psychopath. It is so, and it's based, and there's actual, well, not actual real serial, that's dumb. The characters are based on actual people that existed at one point. And so, who, Jesus, help me if them people are still around, because, man, they were horrifying.
What's that sci-fi movie from back in the day where they, try to predict people's crimes?
That was Minority Report.
Yeah, okay. That's what that made me think of a little bit. Just, trying to, map out, how people work. And eventually, I'm sure we'll be at that point eventually because, we're kind of putting technology more and more into our lives, every day. I'm sure that'll be something that's coming up too. So
yeah, there'll be a diagram for that. There'll be some. They already have some. Well, I don't know if this is real, but they have some variation of where people they scan people or whatever. Where they people who seem like a suspect. They have diagrams for that they never had before. Where they looking for such and such. This guy is in the mid-30s and he's living with his mom and all this kind of stuff, and he's quiet kind of person. They got descriptions.
Huh. That's really believable because if you think about it, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but all of a sudden maybe I'll start thinking about I don't know, I need more socks, like, in my head, and I haven't said it to anybody. And then all of a sudden, like, Amazon will be, like, advertising to me on Facebook, socks. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Where does this come from? Like, I didn't say to anybody that I needed socks. And now that I'm talking to you about it, like, I'm probably going to see it on my Facebook feed.
You probably got 1,000 orders for socks or something like that. You will. And I got that because you're a certain age. You're in a certain demographic. If you're a certain demographic and, you know, they have a lot of stuff they want to sell you. And I'm not going to be gross, but it say since I'm in a certain age, they like to give me certain kind of pills.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's, I mean, that's, like, I get it. It's predicting, like, all the different things and stuff that someone my age or whatever you're, like, whatever demographic you fall into and they think you're going to want and whatever you might be looking at. Anyway, they look at all that and the algorithm just figures out what it needs to sell you. Yep. Somehow they wind up knowing that I need more socks.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So. Now you're putting your you're working at a novel, and I'm gonna ask you a whole lot about it because what is the summary of the novel that you're trying your hand at? Is like fiction, nonfiction?
So it's work of fiction. It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic sci-fi, and I don't know the premise of the book. It's got two very like separate timelines, and right now I'm trying to figure out if I want to make it more like it just like kind of weave the timelines together in the story, or if I want to separate the two. Okay. And right now I'm kind of like on I want to weave them. So one takes place in like the not too distant future. Involves like World War III and kind of like government psyops and like top secret information and like just things that are like being kept from the people, like all of that kind of stuff is in one side, and then you've got the post-apocalyptic side where this girl lives in like a dome, like a big dome city, where she is figuring out kind of that a lot of things aren't as they seem. So and both of them have this like common theme of like people figuring out that like there's something messed up going on at the top, and something's being done to kind of control the masses or to control the working class. Similar to the world we live in today.
I'm like this. That's a pretty awesome book right here. I like this.
So it should be. I've had this idea forever. I've written some like kind of I've written like a couple of short stories that kind of preface it, which I might have a book of short stories as well, but because I've got a good little like collection going of that. Okay. But yeah, I've had some stuff that kind of like preface these stories, and I don't know, it's like this giant fictional world that I've kind of had like in my head, and I've been trying to like put it down to get it out. Okay. It's obviously, if I spend a certain amount of time like not writing, then I start to like bug out, and it just, I don't know, if I don't have my like creative outlet, then I get everything else just falls apart around me.
I understand. Now, do you have any other goals? Like, because you said you're going to school.
Yeah, I'm taking a class. I'm taking a real estate class. Okay. Just I've been in since I moved away from Lynchburg, I have been in Northern Virginia, and I kind of went into like career serving, or I was making really, really good money.
Okay.
And then the pandemic hit, and it was a big blow because I was working like part time hours, making very good money.
Yeah.
And Northern Virginia, you got people are really good tippers. There's a lot of money up here. But so I had my second son this year, this past year in September, and after I had him, I was like, it's not worth going back to. So I do some Instacarting and pretty much stay home with the boys, and then I do my class, and the goal is to kind of like have that going, because I got to have a moneymaker career.
Yeah.
I want to be able to like save up for their college and my retirement and all that stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah. And maybe not have to rent for too much longer too. I would, that's the dream, right? Like buy a piece of property and like have a place to call your own.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Are you enjoy living in Florida? Because I've never been. Like, because it says Cocoa Beach on the phone. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I live in Northern Virginia now.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So that's where I've been since, pretty much since I left Lynchburg. I did have another like few months where I was down in Lynchburg for a while, just trying to get my life together because I went through some bad stuff.
Yeah, I understand. Don't explain. You don't like explain. Don't explain.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
So I moved back up to Northern Virginia because I was serving and it's good money, like really, really good money. So I was like, perfect. I can pay for a place and not struggle and kind of figure out where I'm going. So then the pandemic hit and it was just like,
yeah, it
totally,
sucks.
yeah. But I used to live in Florida. I grew up. I went to high school in Florida, and then I did like my early 20s. So I was like in my mid 20s when I actually moved to Virginia.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I was just curious because it said Cocoa Beach, and I was like, this just sounds funny. Like that. I know it's a place, but it just sounds funny.
So yeah, it's real. It's Cocoa Beach. I went to Cocoa Beach High School. So yeah, go Minutemen. So it's right. It's on the Space Coast of Florida, which is really it's where it's like 45 minutes south of Kennedy Space Center and about an hour east of Disney World and Universal Studios and all that stuff. So it's in a nice spot. There's a military base there, so there's a lot of military and then a lot of people that work for the Space Center, which is building back up thanks to Tesla and the independent contractors that are coming in and building our space program back up, which is great.
Okay. I appreciate you doing this. I don't want to hold you up too much longer, but I just got a few questions. This is more like a fantasy question. Let's say hypothetically, a producer or someone was to come to you out of the blue, and they will ask you, look, we like your writing and everything like that. And we want you to help out us on the movies. You can pick the movies what you want to do. What if you could? And I'm not saying that you have aspirations to be in movies or write scripts or producing. What kind of movies would you like to do in the fantasy world?
Oh man. In the fantasy world, I would definitely have to go with like action sci-fi, which is weird because I'm not 100% like a big, not like a big like
sci-fi person.
Marvel.
Oh,
fan.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Okay, you can say Marvel.
Yeah.
You can say Marvel. Yeah.
I've gotten into some comics growing up. You mentioned you were into comic books.
Yeah.
Or this in this podcast is about, partially about that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's do you know the Sandman?
Yes, I do. I never read it, but I know exactly what it is.
Oh my gosh! Well, totally. That's right up my alley. Like it's action. It's dark. It's a little bit sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
So like that kind of world, The Matrix.
Okay.
That kind of sci-fi.
Okay.
For sure, that would be so cool. Writing for something like that. So much fun.
I like that. And when should I look out for your novel? I know you're starting out, so I'm not expecting you to have it next week, but how's it coming, and when should I look out for it? Ballpark. I'm not asking could be a year from now or 2 years, or I don't care. Just look out for it.
I'm hoping in another year or so to really have a good final draft going.
Okay.
And I'm going to attempt to send it in to publishers this time rather than self-publish.
Okay.
Which I don't know. I know one girl that has gone through that route, and she said it's a struggle, to find the right person to do that. So it really just depends on, if someone's responsive or not. Otherwise, I'll probably go through Amazon and self-publish again.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I like this. Now, I really appreciate this, and I like to hit you up again later and just talk about books or anything. Doesn't matter, just anything. Just talk trash, whatever. But but I like to just to hit you up again to see how it's coming, because I think it's pretty awesome that you're a writer now. Well, you've always been a writer, not a writer now. So I like to see how the progression is coming and everything. So once again, I thank you again for just allowing me to interview, and I really appreciate it. And hopefully down the road I get to see you again.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. This was really fun, and I appreciate you hitting me up to do this. This is my first time I've ever done a podcast or anything like that. So
I feel honored now.
Very enjoyable. So,
cool.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you later.
All right. Sounds good. I look forward to hearing more. All right.
Cool. See you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Bye. That was Annie Ellison. She is an amazing writer, and I want to make sure I get this right because clearly I'm special at times. So I want to look this up so I can actually read the actual title and not guess it. The title is called Cards on the Table. It's a book of her poems, and it's really cool covering like that. So if you're a person who likes to read and likes poems and whatnot, please check us out. And once again, this is another awesome interview that I was proud to do, and I'm going to bounce. All right. See you.